Nobody can disagree that when it is finished, the Starship will be a remarkable feat. It is undeniably a technological marvel, and a historic one at that. Future generations will remember it as a watershed moment. What, though, do modern scientists believe about SpaceX's Starship? Hey guys, hello and welcome back to Elon Musk Newest. In today's video, we'll talk about how SpaceX's Starship will make startling discoveries. But first, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Now let's get this started. If everything goes as planned, SpaceX will launch the world's largest rocket next month. The almost 400-foot tall Starship is designed to deliver NASA humans to the moon. Elon Musk, SpaceX's CEO, has grander ambitions for the company. He wants to use it to inhabit Mars with humans. Starship's human spaceflight capabilities have already attracted a lot of attention. The rocket, on the other hand, has the potential to change our understanding of our solar system's planets and moons. A Starship is a giant spacecraft built on top of a large rocket known as the Super Heavy, which is being developed at the Starbase facility in Texas. Both may re-enter the atmosphere and be reused, reducing costs. The entire spacecraft will be capable of carrying 100 metric tons, 220,000 pounds of cargo and passengers into orbit on regular low-cost missions. The Starship has a usable volume of 1,000 cubic meters, which is big enough to contain the entire dismantled Eiffel Tower. This has scientists ecstatic. Many of these concepts rely on the fact that Starships are designed to be not just massive, but also economical to launch. With launch costs in the tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, NASA and the European Space Agency, ESA, must pick and choose which projects to support. But Starship's low cost may allow many more missions to be supported. The low cost of access has the potential to really change the game for science research, says Andrew Westphal, a physics lecturer at the University of California, Berkeley, citing flights as low as $2 million per launch. Imagine privately funded missions and citizen consortia that band together to fly objects. Indeed, this has been the Starship pitch's key selling point. NASA and planetary science. The discovery of ice on the moon marked the beginning of a period in which planetary scientists discovered ice and water all over the solar system, including on the ice-encrusted moons Europa and Enceladus, on and beneath the surface of Mars, and possibly even further afield, such as Pluto's interior or Neptune's largest moon, Triton. When scientists looked beyond the Earth, they realized that water was almost everywhere. These discoveries opened a world of fascinating possibilities for us. Life may have evolved in areas where there is, or was previously, water, rather than merely seeking fossils in long dry lake beds on Mars. Scientists began looking for living life in the vast seas of Europa, Enceladus, and other moons. The quantity of water also presented a significant opportunity for human discovery. Rocket fuel, liquid hydrogen, and liquid oxygen components can be found anywhere there is water. These discoveries have had a substantial impact on NASA's research and human spaceflight programs. NASA's yearly planetary research budget of more than $3 billion is increasingly being used to support missions that may find past or present life on other worlds. Furthermore, for the past 4 years, the space agency has been preparing a plan to send people to the moon. ARTEMIS mission, maybe to gather water as a prelude to sending humans to Mars. There are always more questions than answers for scientists, and there are always more missions they want to fly than funding available. Scientists' ambition to send robots out into the solar system to clearly find and investigate ice formations and underlying oceans has only grown in response to the quantity of water. Just as we're discovering that the solar system contains far more secrets than we previously imagined, our inability to journey out there and investigate them is becoming increasingly vexing. Some planetary scientists predict that SpaceX's new Starship rocket, with its remarkable lift capabilities and potentially paradigm-shifting low cost, will usher in a new era of solar system research. Consider sending a lander to Europa, which has a big, warm ocean beneath its surface, and imagine the results. Scientists recently suggested sending a complicated spacecraft to Europa to do science, which would cost billions of dollars. They wanted to send a payload of research devices the size and weight of a mini refrigerator there at most. NASA, on the other hand, might utilize Starship to deploy a stockpile of research payloads the size of a single-story unfurnished house. Scientists' interest. Starships would completely transform the way we explore the solar system, says Ali Bramson, a planetary scientist at Purdue University. Planetary science is about to erupt. Starship is like, fantastic, says James Head, a planetary scientist at Brown University. These 2 points of view create the tone for the general atmosphere around Starship. According to Ars Technica, NASA scientists are growing increasingly enthusiastic about SpaceX's Starship, a massive spacecraft designed to transport unprecedented amounts of cargo and passengers to far-flung locations in our solar system. You can truly take advantage of the Starship architecture and get to the outer solar system in ways we hadn't considered previously, NASA research scientist Jennifer Heldman told Berger. It has the potential to create a revolutionary new way of exploring these worlds. A Starship can deliver unprecedented amounts of payload to Mars and other destinations. Because this capability is extraordinary, planetary scientists must consider how to capitalize on it. Being on the floor of the SpaceX factory is the closest I felt to being in the Apollo program, said James Head of Brown University, who worked with NASA in the 1960s to figure out where to land on the moon. Of course, SpaceX still faces the daunting task of launching its Starship into space and off the ground. The first orbital flight tests could take place as early as 2022. If Elon Musk's company can capitalize on early successes, the first trip to the moon might happen as early as 2024. Scientists are salivating at the prospect of SpaceX and NASA focusing their efforts on building a lunar outpost, now that the first human landing on the moon since December 1972 has occurred. This is where we would want to call your attention to a certain white paper. Many people saw the significance of getting NASA on board with using Starship for research missions in early 2021. As a result, they wrote a white paper titled "Speeding Up Martian and Lunar Science with SpaceX Starship Missions." 24 other Mars researchers from academia, industry, and SpaceX signed the study. It sent a strong message to NASA's senior brass, asking them to begin funding research payloads that could fly on Starship. NASA must develop a funded program that is aligned with the Starship development approach, including a rapid development schedule, relatively high risk tolerance compared to traditional planetary science missions, and ultimately a high ratio of potential science value for the dollars spent if successful, the scientists and engineers wrote. The mass of a Starship is its primary distinguishing feature. When a scientist prepares a journey to investigate another planet today, there are 2 major constraints: cost and mass. Starship may have an impact on costs by providing more rockets for less money. The most significant difference, though, is that scientists will no longer need to be hyper-focused on Mars. They can carry extra instruments, shields, and whatever else they want. Creating a program to expressly fund NASA research payloads aboard Starship looks to be a stretch at this point. Rather than designing a tailored program for a certain vehicle, NASA prefers to award tasks to many bidders. Even if NASA's leadership decides to launch a Starship-specific program for science payloads, Congress, and possibly the White House, is unlikely to support it. Members of Congress like to work in their home districts and states. NASA's regular contractors can accommodate this request. SpaceX, on the other hand, prioritizes cost-cutting and efficiency. It only operates in a few states and uses a limited number of subcontractors. When NASA held a competition for the human landing system and ultimately chose SpaceX's Starship as the only option, Congress was angry. But that would be a minor reaction in comparison to the uproar in Congress over the selection of a SpaceX-only research payload trip to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. Take the Mars Sample Return mission, for example. In partnership with a significant space ally, the European Space Agency, NASA plans to launch a sample retrieval rover, developed in Europe, and an ascending vehicle built for NASA by Northrop Grumman. This mission, which might launch as early as 2026, could be carried out by the VULCAN rocket from the United Launch Alliance. The small cache of samples would subsequently be returned to Earth by a return orbiter manufactured in Europe and launched on an Ariane 6 rocket. A mission like this would very probably have widespread political support because it would fund numerous US contractors and boost ties with Europe. A SpaceX-only flight on Starship, on the other hand, would irritate NASA's other contractors, the European Space Agency, and the legislators who support their goals. Despite the political hurdles, the white paper's authors felt it was vital to underline Starship's potential value. That's all we've got for today. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. If you enjoyed it, please share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel to see more amazing videos like this in the future. Until next time, peace.